Okay, now that we have our how might we's organized and voted on, and maybe we have also stacked ranked some of our priorities here, it's time to move on to the last exercise of the day. This exercise takes about 30 minutes. And what we're basically going to do is we're going to revisit our map here and we're going to set a target. So the idea today was to get a better understanding of the problem and the areas we want to focus on. And what we're now going to do is essentially pull some of these how might we's and priorities down and try to overlay them onto the map we made earlier. So the basic steps, the kind of outline of the product that we're hoping to build. And basically this will help us identify clearly what the most pressing and most risky parts of our project are. And it's those parts that we're going to focus on for the rest of the sprint. So it's those particular steps or aspects that we're going to spend most of our time sketching and coming up with solutions for, because they carry the biggest risk, but the biggest reward as well to help us reach our goal. So if we look at, again, this travel bucket app, just as an example of what the output was, earlier today, we had made this map, which essentially had our users, so seeing things on Instagram and adding it to a travel bucket. And then we had airlines and hotels, who were going to partner with us and provide targeted sort of deals and discounts to those users. Having spoken to our experts and kind of written out our how might we's and our priorities, we got the chance to speak to some influencers, and we've since realized that influencers and making something that works well for influencers is going to be critical to us going viral, to us getting users, and to the success of the product as a whole. So we actually need to rethink this map a little bit. It doesn't really suit our purposes anymore because we don't have influencers included in it. So we're going to address that now and create a slightly altered map with some new sections in it. Okay, so on the left here, we have that original map and target where we had our users and our airlines and our hotels. But on the right-hand side here, we've created an updated version of this. So as you can see, it's slightly longer. It's got some more steps in it, but critically for us, it now includes a kind of an influencer flow as well. So that influencer flow is essentially that they will download the app, they'll post something on Instagram, and then they will seamlessly add that to their list of visited places in Travel Bucket, and then they'll share it with their users. So you notice this is really high level stuff still. It doesn't have to be exactly how they're going to share that or how they're going to add it to a list. That's what we'll be working on tomorrow and the day after when we're trying to come up with solutions. So it's just high level steps for now, but they add it to some kind of a list on Travel Bucket, and then they share that with their users. From there, our users are going to see this place that the influencer shared that they also want to go to. They will add it to their kind of wish list in Travel Bucket. They will look through the places on the Travel Bucket app. They'll see special deals on flights, hotels, and restaurants, and they're provided again by our airline and hotel partners. The person then, the user, arranges to travel there, and they can search through their Travel Bucket by hotels, activities, restaurants, viewpoints, hikes, museums, whatever else they might want to visit when they're there that have been recommended by that same influencer who showed them the place in the first place. And then they'll be notified when they're near one of those saved locations as well. So that is essentially our new kind of flow, step by step. So we do have a couple of different users here. And what we want to do now is we're going to pull down, or actually we're just going to copy each of our kind of critical priorities. And the idea here is that we're going to try to place them in line with where they should be for each of these steps, because we're trying to pick out the areas that are most important for the rest of the sprint. So, for example, usefulness for influencers could be probably in this step, in step 3 here, because an influencer needs to be able to seamlessly add the place or the place that they're going to post about to their list. So that is of some use to an influencer. We've then got virality, which can probably go about here, because this is where influencers share the place with their followers. And we have the users then picking up the app and realizing, oh, this is a place I'd like to go to. So it's kind of got that network effect. We might have user experience. So again, it needs to be easy for influencers to add somewhere to their bucket list. because we need them to use it. So that might be important there. But this might also be of critical importance, maybe somewhere around here, because again, our user needs to be able to add it to their travel bucket, and that needs to be seamless as well. So that's where those two things might come in to a lot of importance. And utility for users, so that they can discover places that they want to visit. That's probably going to be in this line here in step 4 as well, because this is where our influencers are using the product, they're sharing the place with users, so that's how the users are discovering places that they want to visit. So take a couple of minutes now, pause the video, and try to pull the most critical aspects that you identified in the stack ranking exercise and try to place them over the map. If you did skip the stack ranking exercise, don't worry, we're going to do the same with the how might we's, so just keep playing the video. Before we layer on our how might we's, just wanted to show you what, again, that sample output could look like. So again, the purpose of this is trying to identify the areas of highest risk. I think we can automatically see here that the way influencers add places to their list and share it with the users is going to have a major impact on the success of this project. Because we've got a lot of stuff in here about virality, user experience, the utility for users and for influencers. It's all coming in these kind of steps here. So step 2 and step 3, those are going to be critical. We've got step 5, which is important, and step 10, which are important. But step 7 here as well has a couple with the last minute deals and the profitability. So that is another important area that we're going to want to address. So what we're going to do next is pull our how might we's. So we can take the card titles, but what's actually sometimes more helpful is to pull down individual stickies and cards themselves. And we're going to try to rank those and kind of apply those to our map as well. So if we copy them down here, and we're just going to change their color just so that it's easier to follow on our map. When we say how might we help users discover new places to visit, that's probably going to fall into this step as well. So sharing with users. So we need our influencers to share the places with users. How might we help users discover restaurants, sites, etc. to visit when in a new location? That could probably fall in here as well. How might we help followers of influencers to emulate them? It's probably going to be around here as well. How might we remind users of the cool places they have seen? That could probably fall over into step 10 here, so when they're notified near a stable location. So what you want to do is pull down those how might we's, especially the ones that are of most importance. So there's no need to take all of these down. There's some here that we're probably not going to deal with. They didn't get any votes, they didn't get any real attention, and they're not a high priority, but some of these ones that have votes on them are the key ones that we want to make sure that we're bringing down. So feel free to copy those down and again layer them over your map to see where you really need to focus on. So take a couple of minutes to do this, and then just feel free to pause the video and we will pick it back up and walk through exactly what this travel bucket map now looks like with our stack ranked priorities and our how might we's layered on top of it. Okay, now that we've layered on our how might we's, this is what our map and target is starting to look like. So just to run you quickly through this, so again for step 3, which is about influencers adding a place to their bucket list, and that has to be seamless. That brings in the usefulness for influencers, it brings in the user experience. It also takes into account these how might we's here, so these orange stickies, which is how might influencers promote things on the site, how might we help make the app useful for influencers, how might we provide influencers with something useful to produce content, how might we create a place for influencers to compile a travel recommendation. So all of those are falling into that step 3, and those stickies had a bit of interest based on the category they were in. We've got something similar here in our step 4, which is around the sharing of it. So this kind of engages the users and the influencers. So all those stickies address that. And we've got a cluster here as well around step 7, which is around the last minute deals, the profitability, but also how might we utilize the last minute capacity of travel agents on flights, and the same for hotels, and how might we get deals on those flights or hotels when they're not full. The other area that's kind of got a fairly big cluster, step 5 here. So this is just the user adding a place to a travel bucket, to their wish list on the travel bucket app. We've got user experience here. So that was one of the critical things that are of importance here. But we also want to know how might we provide use for users. How might we help users organize their bucket list of travel places? How might we put order on users' bucket list so that they can easily navigate it? And how might we allow users to save and compile cool places they've seen? So that's an important step as well. We've got a little bit as well here around step 9 and 10. So this is kind of around searching for things once you're in the location, or to be notified of an area when you're nearby. But probably the three that we're seeing are the most pressing or the most urgent are sort of step 3 and 4 here, which are kind of linked. So that's around influencer adding it to their list and sharing it on social media. Step 5, which is a user compiling a list, a bucket list. And step 7 is kind of capitalizing on those deals. So what we can do here on the left hand side of Miro is just get this little pen. You can kind of set a marker style here. Let's make it a little bit thicker and draw it in red. So what we're going to do is just draw basically a box, and this can be fairly free, but draw a box around the areas of critical importance that we're going to focus on. So this is undoubtedly area 1, because we've got these 2 steps. And look at the cluster of sticky notes from our critical priorities and from our how might we's that are all associated with these 2 steps. So this step of an influencer adding it to their list and sharing it with their users and the users discovering it, that is critical. That is really, really critical to the success of the project. The next sort of most critical step is probably this one here. So this is around the users creating their own sort of wish list or bucket list of places they want to visit. So let's draw a square around that one too. And our final one is step 7. So that's around profitability and the last minute deals from hotels and airlines. So how that's going to work. So that is essentially how you work with your map and your target. We now know going into tomorrow and the areas that we're going to focus on. So tomorrow we'll be doing a lot of work trying to come up with solutions. And what we'll be doing is looking at solutions for this area here. That's one exercise that we'll be running. We'll be running another one to look at the solutions for this area. And then finally, we'll run a third session where we're looking for solutions for this area. So essentially what we've done here is we've prioritized the critical steps in the user journey and the user flow. We know the areas that don't really matter to us that much. These are the things that are going to be absolutely critical to the success of the project. So that is how you make your map. I hope you've been able to follow the video okay. I hope you now have a map that looks something like this and you've been able to pick out the 2 or 3 steps that are most important. I would recommend not going over 3. You won't have time to do more than 3 steps tomorrow in the sketching exercises. So try to keep it to 2 if you can, but 3 as a maximum. Once you're finished compiling your map and your target, you can watch the final video for day 1, which is going to go through what each member of the team needs to do as homework before the start of day 2 of your product design sprint. So whenever you're ready, feel free to watch that video.